Cease, father. I have something to tell you. Mr. Stefan Luca, a reporter from the city, arrived here this morning. He's in the parlor. He sort of told me to kind of tell you he'd like to talk to you.
A reporter? Very well, I'll go.
Wait, father. I also wanted to tell you. I have to make up the room to the right of yours for Mr. Luca. And maybe it's dumb, but I don't dare go in it anymore.
Oh, why is that, Ozana?
Well, it's like it was kind of cursed.
Really? What makes you think that?
The spot. The black spot. The more I rub, the less it goes away. And then the crucifix. It falls down on its own.
Come. What can I do to reassure you?
Please, put the cross back in place. I don't dare touch it. And bless the room. That way, I'll be able to go in it to do the housework.
Here's the black spot that frightens Ozana so much. Gloria Patri, et Filio, et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio, et nunc, et semper, et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. Ozana, I put the crucifix back in place and said a prayer. Are you reassured?
Thank you, Father. Thanks a lot. I'll be able to fix up the room.
Father Arno, I was expecting you. Delighted to meet you, Father. Concerning Martha, I mean Dr. Calugarl, it's very important that you know. She was murdered.
What are you saying?
Yes, I didn't introduce myself. Stefan Luca, journalist. It's a good thing that you're here. Since the departure of Father Gregoriu, this village really needed a priest.
Yet I didn't come to replace him.
Of course, I know why the Vatican has sent you, for Martha's canonization. But I want to talk with you about something else. There's something much more serious. Martha, well, she was killed for defying evil. My God, I should have helped her more. I wrote an article, but he prevented me from publishing it. He's very powerful, you know. Martha was not his first victim.
I'm afraid I don't follow.
Are you skeptical? I was too. But read this letter that Martha sent me 3 months before her death. Here are the notes Martha kept. Once you've read the file on each victim, you'll be convinced. I'm sure.
The documents you showed me are astonishing. However, I'm surprised Dr. Calugarl entrusted you with them. Doctor-patient confidentiality and all.
Medical secrecy is a secondary issue when human lives are at stake. Think of it. The identified victims are just the latest ones. Martha was convinced that there were many others over the past years. No, the past centuries. She wanted me to alert public opinion, but the editors of my paper were pressured. Our enemy is very influential. We have to do something.
Let's see. I agree that these files are very disturbing, but we can't take the place of the police.
Martha contacted them a number of times, to no result.
Perhaps they didn't take her seriously. We should call back to explain the situation calmly.
The police, once again, didn't do their job. Call them, and you'll see.
That would seem to be the most reasonable course, if you don't have any objection.
Go right ahead. The telephone is in the next room. When you realize the ineffectiveness of the police, come back to see me.
Number, please. You want the police?
Yes, put me through to the police station in charge of Vladoviste, please.
Please hold. You're connected.
Provincial Police, what is it?
This is Father Moriani. Well, several people died in Vladoviste in mysterious circumstances.
Vladoviste? You have the wrong department. You have to contact the Transylvania Regional Brigade. Ask for Inspector General Brutar at Alba Euler 22.
Number, please. Just one moment, please. You're connected.
This is Inspector Brutar.
Hello, this is Father Arno Moriani. I belong to the Sacred Congregation of Rites. I've come to Vladoviste to investigate the case of Martha Caligaro in view of her eventual canonization.
Martha Caligaro. I remember her well. Always bothering my men with unbelievable stories and groundless complaints. She wasn't a bad woman, but she had a screw loose.
I'll note your opinion. Inspector, I'm calling because my investigation has revealed several suspicious deaths, which all occurred in Vladoviste. They could very well be murders.
Give me the names of the supposed victims.
Marian Marescu, dead in October 1913, Seldrick Maliskal in July 1916, and an unidentified young girl who died in November 1919.
I see exactly what you're talking about. Wasn't it a certain Stefan Luca who transmitted this information to you?
Well, that is...
Of course it's him. Don't believe anything he tells you. He's just been fired by his newspaper. He's just a troublemaker. Father Moriani, I have to warn you. Our country is currently in the grip of a certain agitation. And the Catholic minority isn't viewed very positively by certain political groups. So, if I were in your shoes, I wouldn't prolong my visit to Transylvania.
Thank you for your advice, but you understand that I can't leave without carrying out my mission.
Yeah, go on. I'm listening.
Well, we have 3 individuals dead in the same region and in the same manner, drained of their blood. That would suggest the work of some perverted criminal, wouldn't it?
No, believe me. It would suggest, rather, that your informant is bored and has a fertile imagination. None.
Did a physician examine her body?
Certainly not. Why bother? Her death wasn't at all suspect.
Goodbye, Inspector. The police think that Martha was mad. Her case doesn't look good, but it's out of the question for me to close the file without digging deeper. Let's go back to the journalist to question him.
Good. Did you call the police? Are you convinced that they won't do a thing? Then we can go on to serious matters. Read these 2 letters and tell me what you think of them.
Vampires, hosts. My lord, I must elucidate this sorry affair. Let's subject Stefan Luca to some methodical questioning. The letters you showed me raise a lot of questions. First of all, what exactly does the term vampire signify?
Vampire, wampir, upir, upir, brucolacus for the Greeks. Do these words really evoke nothing for you?
To tell you the truth, they do. I seem to recall reading something about these, creatures. So, if I understand right, Martha tried to drive them back with a communion host ground into a powder?
That's right. With the crumbs from the host, she drew a protective circle.
Tell me, was the host consecrated?
I suppose so.
Did Father Gregoriou know that this sort of activity was going on in his parish?
The best would be for you to ask him the question. That's the frightful reality.
And why don't the residents do something to rid themselves of a curse like that?
Because they're resigned and submissive. To vanquish evil, you have to be strong. She wasn't that old.
Overwork, perhaps?
Come on, she was in perfect health. Just before she died, she was still hiking in the mountains. Since the war, we've changed our nationality and our official language. One thing hasn't varied: the ineffectiveness of the police. Worse, I think they've sold out to our enemy. I have reason to believe they wanted to intimidate Martha, or even worse. Yes, we chatted over a glass of Tsuika, our local prune brandy. Janos is a great lad, very cultured, but he has a rare lack of imagination. Young Maria? No, I didn't want to frighten her. I don't think she can help us in any case. Father, help me resume the task that Martha began. With a priest at my side, I'd feel stronger.
It's not so simple. You see, this affair is really not in my purview. I have to question Father Gregoriou about this sinister story of vampires.
Number, please. Hold the line. Greenleaf Rest Home. Good day.
Could I speak to Father Gregoriou Nigescu, please? This is Father Arno Moriani.
One moment, I'll see.
This is Father Gregoriou Nigescu.
Hello, this is Father Arno Moriani. Father, I have to discuss a very delicate subject with you. Please answer my questions very precisely. It's important. Do you know Stefan Luca?
He's a journalist, a friend of Martha's. They developed photographs together.
According to Stefan Luca, Martha Caligaro believed in vampires and engaged in strange rituals.
It's true. And before you ask the question, yes, I helped her.
You do know the position of the church on this subject, don't you?
I know it. And I don't doubt that it's a very reasonable position when you think about the question, seated in an office in Rome. But in Vladoviste, the situation is different.
Do you want me to tell you how things happened?
I went to the dispensary to give extreme unction to Seldrick, a poor child who's wasting away. I uttered a few of the usual prayers, and then I gave Martha the sacred hosts. She used the wafers to draw a protective circle around the sick boy. Was it sacrilege? You're entitled to think so. But the child was going to die in spite of the transfusions. We had to try everything to drive away the creature that was feeding on him. What would you have done in my place? Unfortunately not. 2 nights later, the window opened mysteriously, and the wind blew away the protective circle. Martha found the child dead, with wounds on his neck. Yes, a waste of time. The war began shortly after the child's death.
I left the village to serve as an army chaplain. Upon my return, we tried to save a young amnesia victim. The girl seemed possessed. She ripped off the garlic necklaces that we hung on her neck and left her room every night. She didn't survive long. Young Ariel almost died as well, but Martha saved him by sending him away from the village. It was probably the only thing to do. It's very likely. I knew she was threatened. I'd offered her a dog to protect her. Now that seems to me to have been laughable. As if a dog could have stopped the enemy she was confronting.
Do you think that enemy was a vampire? A supernatural creature?
An emanation of the devil. If you'd lived a few years in Vladoviste, you wouldn't doubt it. Martha spoke to me of it. It's a sort of accursed way of the cross, which leads to the source of evil. She embarked upon it against my advice. I wanted to protect her. Oh, I was wrong.
Why is that?
She died fighting. I fled. Today, it is she who has the good part.
Thank you for your frankness, Father. Of course, you realize that after your revelations, Martha will never be canonized.
Yes, of course. Oh, what does it matter if she rests in peace?
Another thing. If a direct question is asked, I shall be forced to evoke your part in this business.
So be it. But you should know that my only regret is not to have helped Martha more. In the end, I slipped away. It was cowardly of me.
The Lord is our only judge. I have no wish to condemn you. Goodbye, Father Gregorio. I wish you a good rest.
Goodbye, Father Arno.
All right, now it's time to make my report to Monsignor Briganti.
Number, please. Please hold.
He's not in his office. I'll call back later. Meanwhile, let's go see Janos at the Castle of Twilight. That will give me something else to think about. I can't borrow this without permission.
Sure you can. I don't know where it comes from. Some vagabond brought it to me. I gave him a meal in exchange for it. My way of being charitable, I guess. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Oh, Father, please don't say that. People might think us folks in Vladoviste ain't very proper. What I think is she killed herself with work. And anyway, she never ate anything. I always knew her thin as a rail even before the war. When you work a lot without eating, then obviously you're gonna...
Hey, sir!
She was found in the dispensary, lying on her bed, calm, like as if an angel had come to get her. We all wanted her to have a real nice burial, but we had to do something simple because the funeral parlor's been closed since the war. Oh well, he's buried in the corner up there. He was a strong guy, did road work. Still, he passed on real quick. Dead of the cold. Maybe. What's sure is, she didn't die at peace. I'd rather not talk about all that.
Fragrant flowers, a thorny stem. It's a wild rose bush. Hey, Yonel.
Of course. We played together before the war. Sometimes we'd go to the chapel with our friends. We weren't allowed, but we went there anyway. And then Celdric got sick. He went to the dispensary, to Martha. And then he died. He's my friend. He's great at the disc game. He got sick, but he's not dead. Martha sent him to the coast to cure. Lucky guy.
According to what Janos told me, the crossroads of the Broken Oak ought to be here. I have to keep going straight to get up to the castle. Bullet holes. On a battlefield, it's typical that the trees be riddled with shot. However, this oak has traces that seem very recent. Cartridges from a revolver. Hello, Janos.
Welcome to the Castle of Twilight. These ruins are impressive, aren't they? Imagine this edifice before the war, when the erect ramparts had been standing for centuries. The Dragoman family, which reigned over Transylvania in the heroic age, lived here. It Its most famous member was Vlad Tepes, hero of the war against the Turks. A magnificent sovereign and a passionate subject to study. I think he's the greatest prince Transylvania ever had. No, the building is much older, but Vlad Tepes enlarged it by adding the outer walls. It was lived in until 1900, when the last owner died without any heirs.
Skeletons, exposed during the destruction of the ramparts.
They were convicts who died of exhaustion while digging the foundation of the castle. They were buried where they fell, probably so their ghosts would guard the place. This sundial adorned the entrance to the castle. A bullet shattered it, and a piece is still missing. I searched the whole area without finding it. That's especially annoying. Gold with a sable wolf, the personal coat of arms of Vlad Tepes.
Vulnerant omnes, ultima necat. All injure. The last one kills.
That refers to ours, doesn't it?
Yes, which gives us a rather gloomy picture of man's fate.
Dragon. It's the dynastic emblem of Vlad's family. Where did you find it?
A vagabond gave it to Ozana. Perhaps I should return it to her.
No, but its place is here. The person who took it had no right to pillage these ruins.
I must admit, you're right.
Can you hear? The wolves multiplied during the war. Now that peace has returned, they're hungry.
The drawbridge is destroyed.
Frustrating, isn't it? If only I had the means to restore it.
The castle must have suffered terrible bombing.
Yes. In addition, the Romanian mountain troops had the dubious idea of storing ammunition here. Obviously, the whole thing blew up.
This tree is a Sorbus acuparia, commonly known as the mountain ash or the rowan tree.
Number, please.
This is Cardinal Felicio Briganti.
This is Father Arno Moriani,
How is your investigation going?
a journalist friend of Martha Kelugarl has a strange story to tell. He maintains she was assassinated by a dark power.
What? And what do the police think?
According to them, the reporter is a pathological liar, and Martha wasn't right in the head. As for me, I'm coming to more or less the same conclusions. I have proof that Martha believed in vampires and kept them away with the sacred host.
How could that be? The file seemed so serious. What a disappointment. And as for those vampire stories, tell me, was the parish priest aware of this?
Yes.
And he did nothing? Said nothing?
Well, that is...
Don't tell me he took part in these magical rites.
In fact, yes.
Good heavens! And was he paid for that?
I have no reason to think so. He seemed entirely disinterested and sincere to me. And he's very sick.
Well, rest assured that I don't want to incriminate him personally, but we have to react at once, or people will say the Catholic Church encourages superstition. Stay near your phone, please, Arno. I'll make 2 calls and get right back to you.
This is Father Arno Moriani.
Arno, I've informed the Diocese of Albayula. They're stunned and say it's a setup. Are you sure about what you're putting forth?
The testimony of Father Gregorius seems conclusive to me.
How could a priest encourage practices of the sort? That's the crux of the matter. I spoke about it upstairs and learned to my consternation that we're not dealing with an isolated instance here. Believe it or not, this is the 20th century and there's a fresh outbreak of belief in vampires. It's probably connected to the success of certain novels that have troubled impressionable minds. And so, I have new instructions for you.
I suppose that I close the Caligaro file then?
Certainly. And you open another one on vampires.
Excuse me?
You heard me right. Study the legend. Demolish it. Prove that it is not based on reality. We'll give your report widespread distribution.
Yes, but hasn't the Church already taken a position on the question?
To be sure. Benedict XIV formally condemned belief in vampires, but that was 2 centuries ago. It's time to bring his message up to date.
What exactly am I to do?
Seek the origins of the myth, but also pay attention to its literary aspects, its recent manifestations. Show that those phenomena that terrorize the naive are either pure fabrication or have explanations that aren't supernatural. Let me insist on one point, Arno. For your research, it's important that you consult the best scientific experts. We need the authority of a doctor and a historian to support your conclusions.
Do you think that a rational discourse can vanquish superstition?
I know the battle is never definitively won, but it must be fought. I hope the task doesn't seem too daunting for you.
Not at all. You're entrusting me with an unexpected job, but a very interesting one. I'll get at it without delay.
I'm counting on you. It would seem self-evident, but the diocese might object. I'd rather not run the risk. Unless circumstances force you to. If you had to celebrate a funeral mass, for example.
Goodbye, Your Eminence.
Be well, Arno.
It just so happens that my congregation has ordered me to undertake an inquiry on the vampires.
Inquire? We have to fight!
Suppose they exist. If that's the case, isn't it essential to study them first? Know thy enemy.
Ours is wily and difficult to get at unless we take the path of the dragon. That was Martha's conviction.
The path of the dragon?
The dragon, the vampire, Dracula. All these names designate our adversary. The path of the dragon leads to his lair. Look at this file that Martha entrusted me with on her return from Turkey. She had established that the path comprised 7 trials. The related documents are sorted in 7 folders.
I know that work. It's Raphael's Crucifixion.
Yes, photographed by Martha. According to her, this painting has a connection with the first stage on the path of the dragon.
Really? The painting has a hidden meaning?
Martha thought so. She spoke to me of other versions of the same work of art, slightly modified reproductions she examined in private collections. According to her, to understand the hidden message, The original's not enough. It has to be compared to the copies and the variations noted.
Do you have other versions of the painting?
Unfortunately not. Martha gave me this file at the beginning of her research, for she feared her papers would be stolen. Afterwards, we had a falling out, and she didn't transmit anything else to me. I'm certainly lacking some essential pieces.
We're radically changing style, you could say.
This other document is a sketch Martha made of an ancient bas-relief.
The inscription is hard to make out. It vaguely resembles Enochian.
But the drawing is clear. The figure is slashing his veins.
I see the sketch is classified in the first folder with the crucifixion. Is there a connection then between these two documents and the first stage of the path?
For Martha, there was no doubt about it. Here's a sketch of another bas-relief, from the same place as the previous one. Martha associated it with the second trial.
There aren't any other documents? Nothing for the 5 last tests?
They're all I have, but I'm sure that Martha found many others, if I'd only been more conciliatory. Father, we have to follow the path of the dragon. Let's go to Turkey. Since Martha went there, together we'll succeed.
I don't think that my superiors would appreciate that initiative. However, I promise that I'll think about it.
Unfortunately, those I know aren't accessible. But I really do need help to assemble the documents about the path. One day, I found her in a state of shock. She wouldn't tell me anything, but I understood that she had been threatened. I told her she was taking too many risks. She wasn't listening to me. So I got angry. She answered that she'd do without my help, and she never spoke to me again about the path. It was stupid of me. If I'd backed her up all the way, she might still be alive. Today, it's my duty to finish what she began. Alone, if you won't help me. Martha said it was the only way to discover objects and symbols related to each trial. She added that without that knowledge, it was impossible to attain the end of the path. She haunted public and private libraries. I know that she frequently visited the Alba Iula Museum. It burned shortly after her death. I have a feeling it wasn't by accident. I went to give blood at the request of Dr. Maria Florescu.
You didn't try to recover any documents?
What's the point in harassing young Maria? I'm sure there's nothing left of Martha's archives. Our enemy has had plenty of time to destroy them.
Dr. Florescu came by. She asked for you to go to the dispensary because she needs blood donors, if you're so inclined.
Fine, I'll go there.
Did you like that? Me, I never go up there. Anyway, with my legs, it ain't possible anymore. Those ain't legends, Father. Begging your pardon, but you shouldn't talk about those things. It brings bad luck. A lovely girl. But she's got a way about her, if you see what I mean. You can tell right off she's not from around here. Always hanging around outside, if that ain't a shame. Of course, he's got no more parents. Lives with his uncle, who barely takes care of him. Tell me, Father, do you think Martha will be sanctified?
Do you mean canonized?
Yeah, that's it. I hope she'll be canonized. A saint and a pilgrimage. That's what Vladoviste is missing. That'd sure make people come, you know.
I haven't the heart to tell him the truth.
Come in! It's open! Thank you for stopping by. I noticed that my blood stocks were really insufficient. Would you let me take a sample of yours?
Certainly. I was a priest medic during the war. I saw many lives saved thanks to transfusions.
Oh, so you're a nurse as well. Then you'll be able to do it yourself. Great. I have to rush off to see a patient on the other side of the village.
Oh, what exactly do I have to do?
Draw your blood and place the bottle in the refrigerated chest. The combination is easy to remember. The date the dispensary was built. They're coming to get me. I have to go. Could you mark your blood type in the analysis reports? And also determine the types of the last 3 donors? I didn't have time to run the tests. Oh yes, and if the phone rings, please answer. See you later.
All right, down to work. I hope I haven't lost the touch. I have to sterilize this equipment before I use it. It's not hot enough to boil the water.
This is Professor Heinrich von Kruger.
This is Father Arno Moriani. Dr. Florescu has gone out. May I take a message?
Please ask him to call me back as soon as possible at Munich 321941.
I'll be sure to do that. Goodbye, Professor.
Goodbye, Father.
I've done this hundreds of times to other people, but giving yourself a shot is not the same thing. Be brave. It has to be done. That's the right place. All that's left to do is press the needle deep into the vein. The ampoule is full. Perfect. Now I have to store the bottle of blood in the refrigerated cabinet. The door of the refrigerated cabinet mustn't stay open too long. Now I have to figure out my blood type, as well as that of the 3 last donors, and update the analysis reports. The door of the refrigerated cabinet mustn't stay open too long. Perfect. I'm sure of my results. Maria should be happy. I've done my work well. I finished the sample and the tests. Have you been back long?
I should have come help you, shouldn't I?
I was delighted to be of assistance. But now I have to think of my own work.
Of course. I hope your investigation is going well.
It has changed character. As strange as it might seem, I now am ordered to study some supernatural creatures, vampires.
Vampires? Like Dracula?
Dracula?
Don't you know it? It's a wonderful novel. I'll get it for you. Look at this book. It's Dracula by Bram Stoker. Oscar Wilde said it was the most beautiful novel of the century.
What a massive novel. Let's peruse it to see if there are any interesting parts.
was captivated by this novel, and you know the strangest thing? The author used Vlad Tepes as his model for the character of Dracula.
Vlad Tepes? The voivode?
The very same one. The one who used to rule from the Castle of Twilight, whose ruins you must have noticed. Vlad Tepes, nicknamed Dracula. I can guess what comes next. He wants me to call back as soon as possible.
You don't really want to, if I'm not mistaken.
Professor Kruger is a great scientist. He worked with Martha and now insists on me continuing her research. But I haven't a research scientist's soul. Anyway, it's too much work.
Now, isn't that a shame?
Oh, please, Father, no sermons. I promise that I'll take it upon myself to finish the analyses he wants from me. I'm afraid not. For me, vampires are romantic fictional characters, not subjects to be studied. In fact, I did observe several spontaneous cures, but, you know, this sort of thing happens relatively frequently. Spontaneous does not necessarily mean miraculous. Everything is possible. Stoker speaks of this voivode Dracula who earned his nickname attacking the Turks beyond the great river at the very border of their country. That clearly signifies Vlad Tepes. That prince spent his youth as a captive of the Turks. Afterwards, he fought them fiercely. The word has two meanings, devil or dragon. It's been translated into every language, and I've heard that the director, Murnau, is going to do a film version, but I don't know if I will have the opportunity to see the movie. I like him. One day he came to the dispensary and took a picture of me. He gave me some prints. I know him. He came to the dispensary too, to give his blood. Oh, it's very kind of you to visit me, Father.
I have to talk with Janos. I wonder if he knows that his great hero, Vlad Tepes, served as the model for Dracula, the vampire. Hello, Janos. I have a surprise for you. I've just been ordered to conduct an investigation into vampires.
What do you know? Anything can happen. I was talking about the same subject with Stefan Luca, who just arrived at the inn. He's kind of a fanatic, and firmly believes in the existence of vampires. You should question him.
You're more useful to me because you're a historian. I have several questions to ask you, particularly about Vlad Tepes.
The recognized expert on the subject was Professor Van Bergen.
The great Orientalist. The man who crisscrossed Asia for the English Secret Service?
The very one. At his death, the superb collection was bequeathed to his successor, Professor Irina Buxov. Speak about her to Stefan Luca. I think he has her number.
So Professor Boxoff would be the person to consult?
Without a doubt. She possesses remarkable pieces on the subject you are interested in. A manuscript of a biography of Vlad Tepes in particular.
Good. I shall get in touch with her.
That's a legend forged by his enemies. Stoker was inspired by it to write a very bad novel. It's a journey of initiation that some traditions associate with Vlad Tepes. Most likely because Vlad was called Dracula, which means the dragon or the devil. But it's more related to occultism than to history. Professor Bogzov will fill you in better than I can. I assume she took some of your blood? She gets everybody to contribute.
Irina Buksov? I tried to contact her, but I was rejected. She's incredibly mistrustful. It's a shame, because I think she knows a great deal about the Path of the Dragon.
Do you have her phone number? Who knows? Maybe I'll be luckier than you.
Do you think so? Possibly. You're a priest. That inspires trust. Call 445-827 in Budapest. But whatever you do, don't say you know me.
Number, please. This is Irina Buksov.
This is Father Arno Moriani. Hello, Professor. At the request of my hierarchy, I'm investigating the persistence of certain superstitions. You are an authority on questions of folklore and popular beliefs.
You flatter me. Let's say that I've had the good fortune to inherit the library of my predecessor, Professor Hermann von Bergen. But tell me, what exactly is your investigation focused on?
The belief in those imaginary creatures called vampires.
Vampires. You're interested in vampires.
Just to demystify them, the Catholic Church wants to fight this superstition.
I have serious reserves about getting into the subject. I am in great demand, you know. Could you be more precise about the framework in which you're conducting your inquiry?
I was entrusted with it by Monsignor Felicio Briganti of the Congregation of Rites. If need be, you can contact him by calling Vatican 63.
Your references are serious. I'll accept to help you, Father, but I don't trust the telephone. Could you visit me at my office in Budapest?
Certainly. As early as tomorrow, if it's all right with you.
Very good. I'll expect you.
Oh, I forgot. I was told that you possess a volume related to my inquiry. A biography of Vlad Tepes?
That's true. Professor von Bergen left me Michel Beheim's account in verse. It's a 15th century manuscript, very precious. But did you know that the German prose version was reprinted in 1905? It's a brochure entitled Geschichte Dracula Trilogy, brought out by the Friends of the Vatican Library.
Published by the Friends of the Vatican Library? In that case, it won't be difficult for me to procure a copy. Goodbye, Professor.
Goodbye, Father. Number, please.
This is Cardinal Felicio Briganti.
This is Father Arno Moriani. I intend to go have a discussion with Professor Irina Buksov in Budapest to complete my file on vampires.
Very good. Will you be coming back to Rome directly afterwards?
If you don't see any problem with it, I'll go back to Vladoviste first. I'll be more tranquil there to write out my conclusions.
Ah, an excellent idea. You'll be able to take advantage of the fresh country air. I also plan on spending a week or two in the country.
I almost forgot. Could you have a work that was published by the Friends of the Vatican Library sent to me?
Certainly.
It's a bound volume. Geschichte Dracula Trilogy, reprinted in 1905.
No problem. I'll send it to you at your inn. Let me insist on one point, Arno. For your research, it's important that you consult the best scientific experts. We need the authority of a doctor and a historian to support your conclusions.
I understand.
And after you've finished your work, make sure you get some rest.
Goodbye, Your Eminence.
Be well, Arno.
Number, please. Alba Eula, put me through to Germany. Unit 321941.
This is Professor Heinrich von Kruger.
This is Father Arno Moriani. Professor, I'm calling back to ask for your help.
How can I help you?
Well, it's rather delicate to explain. You should know, first of all, that I belong to the Holy Congregation of Rites. I came to Vladoviste to investigate the life of Martha Caligaro.
Would you like me to talk to you about her? She was a remarkable woman.
To tell the truth, my mission has changed. For reasons that would be a little long to explain, I now have to investigate vampires.
Vampires? Don't tell me the Catholic Church has started to believe in vampires.
On the contrary, my superiors want to combat this belief. They're alarmed to see how resistant it still is in the 20th century.
Yeah, very good. If it's to fight superstition, you can count on my assistance.
It will be invaluable to me, for I need the viewpoint of a scientist on the vampire myth.
Do you realize this is the very subject of the research I was carrying out with Dr. Caligaro? We discovered a disease, the P syndrome, whose symptoms are quite similar to those attributed to the victims of vampires. So the legend is based on specific medical facts. Dr. Caligaro contacted me when she was caring for a patient called Marescu. His granulocytes showed a very curious anomaly. She sent me a blood sample by carrier pigeon, and we worked on this case together. The result of our collaboration was the discovery of P syndrome. Afterwards, we had to specify the cause of the disease and perfect a serum. For that, I needed statistical data. I asked Dr. Caligaro to take a large number of samples from the population of Vladoviste. Unfortunately, the war interrupted our research.
Did you pick up again with Martha Caligaro after the end of the hostilities?
It wasn't possible for me to contact her immediately. When I was finally able to phone the dispensary, she was dead. It was Dr. Florescu who answered me. Of course, I've been insisting for some time now that she do so. As soon as she sends me the results I'm missing, I'll be able to find a serum that's effective against P syndrome. I just say that they're not supernatural creatures, but there certainly do exist mentally ill people who are bloodthirsty. Look at Countess Elizabeth Báthory, who in the 16th century bled to death hundreds of young girls before she was walled up alive in her Carpathian castle. In addition, as I mentioned, patients afflicted with the P syndrome suffer from very odd physical and psychological disorders that make them resemble the victims of vampires. Oh, what did these patients do?
They went out alone in the night, as if they were answering a call. They ripped off the garlic necklaces the doctor had placed on them.
Somnambulism, allergy to garlic. Those signs are most likely associated with P syndrome, as are pallor, drawn features, anemia, and other symptoms we haven't yet discovered. Unfortunately, yes. What an abominable novel.
You're too severe. That's not what Oscar Wilde thought.
I won't tell you what I think of Oscar Wilde, and I'll limit myself to the novel. It's a tissue of inconsistencies. Let's see. Stoker affirms that those who die as victims of a vampire should become one in turn. So at that rate, vampirism should spread like an epidemic, with a growth rate faster than Fibonacci's famous immortal sequence. In a first stage, all of mankind would be vampirized, and then, in a second, the vampires would also disappear, not having any victims left to feed on. So Stoker's hypothesis is therefore perfectly absurd. No species can live without regulation. Joker considers himself a historian and a scientist, but he's just an oddball. His novel is a collection of implausibilities. Take the character of Lucy. That woman, he keeps saying, is getting better until she just dies. A victim of Dracula, she's treated by transfusion. Blindly, of course, because at the time, we knew nothing of blood type. In those conditions, what are the chances the patient will accept the donor's blood?
About 1 out of 3, if my recollections are good. Nonetheless, in desperate cases, it's worth the trouble to try.
Certainly. But the good Professor Van Helsing, who is always described as a genius, repeated the operation with 4 different donors. The chances of survival for that poor Lucy then fell to less than 2%. It's probably the transfusions that killed her, and not Dracula. Let's get back to Van Helsing, supposedly an expert on vampires. He teaches us that they can read minds and change into bats. However, he's not worried about finding one of the latter at the window of the room in which he's holding a meeting. And then he seems so surprised that Dracula knows his plans. The naivety of that character is irritating. Yeah, I know the work of Murnau. They call it expressionism. But for me, those morbid fantasies have much more to do with pathology. Tell me, could I ask you a personal question? Listening to your voice, I have the feeling that you're a little tense.
Yes, I'm not sleeping well.
Nothing else? You can confide in me. I'm a doctor, you know.
Well, sometimes I get the feeling I'm being spied upon. I'm sure it's only an impression, but it's becoming an obsession.
Father Arno, you are sensitive and susceptible, like our late lamented Dr. Caligaro. These are qualities, but they make you vulnerable. Above all, don't let your imagination govern you.
That's good advice. Thank you. I'll try to follow it. Goodbye, Professor.
Goodbye, Father.
He used to correspond regularly with Martha before the war. He didn't believe in vampires. According to him, the victims were sick people who needed to be cured. Martha shared his opinion at the beginning. It was during the war that she understood the truth.
Ozana, I'm leaving for Budapest for a day or 2. Would you please keep my room?
Well, that is...
Naturally, I'll pay you for my keep, even for the nights that I'm not here.
In that case, of course, Father. I'll keep your room for you.
Greetings, stranger.
Hello, I'm Father Arno Moriani.
I am Luana, the gypsy. Tell me, priest, do you want to know the future?
I'd prefer to ask you about the past and the present.
Yes. She did not choose an easy path. From behind the high grass, the wolf observes the flock and carries off the weak and isolated.
As usual, the oracle speaks in obscure, mysterious terms.
That is because it does not want to lie, nor provoke the anger of the powerful. Certain things, but I also know the virtues of silence. As much as I want to know. I have a feeling that before the end you will know more than me about the dragon.